You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
Ian, look at this.
What, it's a police box. What on earth is he doing here? I mean, these things are usually on the street. I feel it. Feel it, you feel it?
Faint vibration.
It's alive.
EarthStation Who, a fun mashup exploring over 60 years of the Doctor Who universe. Hold on tight. You never know where the crew of the TARDIS is going next.
Hey there, Whovians, and welcome to another episode of EarthStation Who. That's right, folks. We are back, and we have our social circle here with us tonight, so we're ready to talk all about Dot and Bubble. And this is, episode number 5 already. And, well, according to Disney, 6, but, we'll go with 5. And it's going to be a fun one to talk all about. And as we always like to say before we start the show, there will be spoilers. So if you haven't seen this one, we are going to spoil the hell out of it. And it's going to be an interesting one to talk about. Let's say hi to all our crew this evening. Welcome our guests first. We have a newbie joining us first. Let's welcome Janne. Welcome.
Hi, nice to see everybody.
You want to tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
I am a Whovian for many decades. I'm a lot older than what people say I look. My tag name is Dalek Darling, if that lets you know how I feel about it.
I think that works.
Happy to be here. I've done a few, not podcasts, I've done a few panels with Dragon Con and MomoCon. All the ones in Dragon Con have been either Doctor Who or some other type of British television. So I'm just really excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
We also have returning to us, we have Romona. Welcome.
Hi, Bubble. My name's Romona from Hartford, Connecticut. I've been a Doctor Who fan for over 30 years. And wow, it just keeps on getting better.
And definitely last but never least, Alan Porter is here. Welcome, my friend.
Thank you. Great to be back. For those who haven't come across me on the show before, I'm Alan Porter. I'm a writer and podcaster. And as you can probably tell, I've been inundated biologically with Doctor Who for almost the full 60 years of the show. And grew up from the William Hartnell days all the way through to this week's episode. So been steeped in Who throughout my life.
That is awesome. So that means he actually was watching it in the womb, folks. So it's pretty awesome.
Thank you, Mike. Check is in the mail.
Let's also welcome our regulars. Let's say howdy to Mr. Mike Gordon.
Howdy.
And let's say hey to Mary Ogle.
Hi, everybody. Fantastic to be here.
Awesome, folks. It is going to be a good one to do. Of course, we want to hear from you guys at home. Feedback at our station Who is the best way to get in touch with us. And if you're enjoying and watching us tonight, thank you up on YouTube. Or if you're listening to us, hello at home. So it's awesome to talk to everybody. If you like, please like and subscribe. It's the best way we can tell if you're liking what we're doing. And obviously, people are listening. Our numbers are through the roof with the new season. So thank you for everyone who's been listening to EarthStation Who. And if this is your first time listening, bless you. Bless you.
Welcome to our bubble.
Exactly. And try not to walk into a pole. That's all we have to say. Exactly. Real small Doctor Who news, but it's huge Doctor Who news. We got actually a couple hours before we started recording, we got the note about the passing of William Russell. And for those, Alan actually just mentioned the Hartnell era. William Russell was one of the very first companions of Doctor Who. And he played Ian, and he and Barbara found the police box in the junkyard, and the rest is history, folks. And William Russell has had a long history with Doctor Who. He's been a British actor in many, many, many projects. Alan probably could tell us more than Doctor Who of what he's been in and everything.
He was probably best known before Doctor Who for playing the lead in Lancelot, British TV show. That was actually the first BBC show, first British show, also made to be imported to America. And I don't know if you know this, but when they actually launched that show in America, he rode down Broadway on a steed in costume to launch.
Wow, that's awesome.
That's awesome.
Have you watched that show? I've heard about it.
I have very vague memories of it. Yeah, I think I have a couple of episodes queued up on YouTube somewhere. But yes, it's a very good traditional old British black and white sort of a high adventure show. Good fun stuff. Yeah. And you mentioned him as the first one of the first companions. He's actually the first character on the show to utter the line "Doctor Who." Yeah.
That's true. That is very true.
Yeah. So and he doesn't he hold the Guinness Book of World Record, the Guinness records now for being the longest character appearance, playing the same character over the longest span of time, because he came back in at the end of the special when they did the Companions reunion.
Yeah.
Which basically meant he played the same character on the same show from 1963 to whenever that was, 2022.
Yeah, 2022. So just shy of 60 years. Yeah.
60 years.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah,
exactly. And he actually was in the last Jodie episode. Also,
that's what
that's what I was
talking about.
At the support group and everything, which was wonderful to see.
Yeah.
But he also was he played a security guard in Adventures in Space and Time. And it's just awesome that he kept on coming back and being involved with Doctor Who.
Yeah.
And
too few and far between, in my opinion.
Yeah, he did a lot of back before the Big Finish days, and the BBC and publishing would put out CDs of some of the Target novelizations, and I have a box set of him reading various novelizations of some of the first Doctor Adventures, which is cool, and it's really good to hear his voice as well on those. So,
very much so.
Very classic actor. I mean, I think he was a member of the Royal Shakespeare Company, and he was. It's weird. I of course I know him most as Ian Chesterton, and but I was like, surely I've seen him in other things, and I looked on the IMDb, and first of all, the IMDb is odd because it says known for Great Escape, Harriet's Back in Town, Superman, and St. Ives, and I'm like, yeah, no, he's known for Doctor Who.
Yeah, exactly.
Although Great Escape was a big feather in his cap, I think. But I really haven't seen him in much else. I was looking through his database, and I was like, man, it's weird that he's been around for so long, because he, despite the fact he only made a few appearances on New Who, he was still actively acting for a long time.
Yeah.
And was more than capable, I think, of putting together some really good stuff. And I think it's a shame that the producers of New Who didn't utilize him more.
Yeah. Do you know that William Russell is not actually his name? That's a stage name.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
I only learned it today reading his obituary in The Guardian. Apparently his real name was Russell Enoch.
Oh, yes, I do see that. I got the IMDb right in front of me now, because I was looking at that thing, and it's like, William Russell Enoch, it says, yeah.
Yeah, and apparently it was Marty Feldman, the British comedian who you may know from Young Frankenstein.
Yeah.
It was him that persuaded him to change his name, because he thought Enoch, nobody would take him seriously with a last name Enoch. But apparently that was still his legal name. It was on so.
That's pretty amazing. It's interesting. We actually almost had the chance to meet him at Gallifrey 1, because the year Mary and I were there, he was supposed to be there, but he canceled, and he actually came the year after.
Mm-hmm.
And so that would have been just amazing. He was still traveling to California, and he was in his 90s.
Wow.
And so it's just amazing that, he was still active in the community. And I was reading an interview with him recently, with him saying, he wasn't, he didn't much, it was a job to him. Doctor Who, it wasn't not until much, much later that people, he started going to the conventions and he started, recognizing Doctor Who for the huge fandom that it was. And once he did, he embraced it fully, which is pretty awesome. Well, it's pretty awesome. He was 99 years old, and it's
just shy of 100.
Stunning.
November, he would have hit 100.
He would have, if he made it, would have made it to November 19th. He would have made it to 100. So he was just less than 6 months shy of it. But he had a good life, and Godspeed. So,
and now there's just one cast member left from that time.
Yes. Carol Ann Ford, and God, I hope she shows up on the TV show.
It does seem like there are signs that point to that this season, that it's possible. We don't know, but who knows? But it does look like they're pointing to something happening with Susan this year.
Yes, I'm hoping. Fingers crossed. We will see. We definitely will see. Not really any other Doctor Who news. Excited to say that I did get my Peter Davison season 20 of the original series Blu-ray in the mail today, which was supposed to be here in last November. So thanks,
congratulations.
Amazon. Yeah,
that's wild.
I was excited about that.
Was it Amazon or was it the Atlanta Postal Service? Because both of them have been acting really terribly lately.
No, I kept on getting messages from Amazon. Your order has been delayed. The new date is blah, blah, blah. And, originally it was supposed to be in November. Then it was supposed to be March. Then it was April. And now I got June. So for all of those
it's traveling by
folks,
its hardest, so you never know when it's going to get there.
Wibbly wobbly timing, especially with the Fifth Doctor flying it, that's definitely true.
Sure, it was the fifth and not Tegan.
Yeah, well, there's a very I think Tegan was taken over by the macro at that point, so it's okay, But anyway, let's take a quick break, and we'll be back, and we're going to be doing Dot and Bubble in full. So, guys, get your social media up and running.
Here, I had ChatGPT write the new Flopcast promo.
Okay. Narrator, the Flopcast is making waves in the comedy world. Join hosts Jenny and Kevin as they dive into pop culture from retro TV to comic books. With their quirky banter and infectious laughter, the Flopcast will have you laughing out loud and reminiscing. Tune in every week for fun, friendship, and fond memories.
Who the heck is Jenny?
It's a glorious day in fine time.
There are creatures out there in the real world. There are monsters, and they are coming to get you.
Just look at my close friends. Look how many are missing.
So it's me. They're coming for me.
Welcome back. And we are now looking at Dot and Bubble, written by Russell T. Davies. Originally, he came up with this idea to do the story, and he posted it over to Moffat when it was the 11th Doctor and Amy. And it just ended up turning out that it would have been too expensive to do at the time because special effects weren't, up to par at the time. And I'm sure they didn't have Disney money to help pay for, a lot of the puppetry and a lot of everything else. And truthfully, I don't think the story would have had as much effect, that it did with what we got in this story. Because
you couldn't have done the ending like that.
No, the ending would have.
It took on a whole different meaning, I think, because of that. But yeah, I'd love to see how that conversation went too, because it's like Russell's like, "Hey, I just watched an episode of Black Mirror. I've got a great idea for Doctor."
Actually, the story predated Black Mirror. Actually,
because Russell C said he admitted that he took the inspiration from a Black Mirror episode.
Okay, because I've seen the other way. So
yeah, so did I. Yeah, I've seen the timelines. It was before Black Mirror, but who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows?
Wibbly wobbly, timey wimey.
Exactly.
It could be both.
Don't you know,
He could have
don't you
come
know
up with the
RTD has
idea
a
and then been
TARDIS?
influenced by Black Mirror.
Like, time and space doesn't matter anything to RTD. Like, he just goes where he wants to. So
Exactly. So it was interesting. Story had one way, thought it was just a monster story, take on social media. Mm-hmm. And boy, does it take a really dark twist at the end, and didn't go anywhere. I had to, at the end of the first time I watched it, I was just like, did that just say what I thought it said? Yeah. And, seeing Shooty again, knock it out of the ballpark. And until this final scene, this was pretty much a Dr. Light story again. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so it was just
because he was still shooting. So this is the first time his first big scene as the Doctor, which is why at the end he's sort of wearing his promotional costume that we see when they announced him. But this is like the first scene that he does as really the Doctor, and it's like, damn, like they hit the ground running with this. Like he nails it, and he keeps that, despite the fact that the last couple of episodes have been ones that he shot before, the ones that we've already seen. You can't tell. Like, he's just seamless in his depiction of the Doctor. He definitely knew who he wanted to be as the Doctor, what his Doctor wanted to be going into it, I think.
Okay. Let's do like we usually do before we get into all the story. Let's just get initial thoughts from everyone, and we'll go around and we'll do it like I'm looking at how I see the screen. So, Romona, I'm going to let you go first. Just your initial thoughts.
Initial thoughts on first viewing was that it was an anti-AI story, and I completely missed the understory.
Okay.
That was my first thoughts.
Okay. Alan.
Pretty much like Romona, actually. First time around watching it, at the end of it, I was like, oh, well, that's fascinating and stuff. And then with the bit at the end that we'll probably dig into, when that line was delivered, I didn't catch it the way I think it was meant to be caught. I didn't realize it was aimed just at the Doctor. I thought it was a broader statement. And my wife said, did they just do what I think they just did? And I was like, oh. And then went back and rewatched it and realized that had actually been sewn throughout. But I missed it the first time around because I think I was just watching it more on a surface level. If that makes sense. I'm thinking it was not so much about social media, but about not looking beyond your immediate sphere of influence, plus the fun, social media stuff. And there was some fun stuff in there. And again, I was surprised it was another Dr. Light episode. I didn't know at that point why he was hardly in it, but I understood at the end. But yeah, I must admit, to my absolute shame, I missed that right at the very end, the first time around. And then when my wife pointed it out, it made me rethink the whole episode and go back and rewatch it and realize it had actually been.
And it's literally right in your face.
It's right in your face, right? Yeah, right there. Yeah.
Okay, Mary.
I initially thought it was, a commentary on social media, and then I realized what was going on, but it took me a while to realize what was going on. And oh boy, was I hit in the face of my own cultural bias. But I'm grateful that I was, because, this to me was the most heartbreaking episode of the season because it's so close to our own reality and what people are experiencing all the time, and all the microaggressions and the sort of casual racism that happens in our society, and where it's just, so accepted and not questioned. And I thought it was a very effective episode. I thought the message was very effective, though. And it kind of made me sad to see our society reflected that way, but I'm glad they're addressing it, and I'm glad they're talking about it.
I am too. I'm glad they didn't back down from it completely. Okay, Janne.
My two younger kids are 20-somethings, and so the social media aspect of it hit me really hard at the beginning, knowing what some of their friends have gone through on social media, the the cliques and the prejudices. So that really hit me hard throughout the whole episode. And then when Lindy took a turn and we saw the type of person that she really was, that was a shocker. But the end of the episode actually floored me. Like, I felt the doctor's emotion. You know, for personal and professional reasons, I felt his emotion when he was down on his knees yelling, you know, that I could help you. And just the shock on his face kind of mirrored the shock that I felt for him.
Oh, sure. Of course. It totally makes sense. And, you know, I hate to say this, you know, it's in everybody's face.
Mm-hmm.
And going back and watching this a second time, you really realize that it, like you said with Alan, it's right there in your face from the first time the doctor pops up. And then you start seeing, you don't watch it the same way the second time. Right. You can't watch it and everything. And the whole episode takes on a whole different meaning with it. And it's interesting. You know, I guess I was really innocent when I watched it the first time, you know, thinking, oh, it's just about AI, damn millennials. Oh, monsters are going to, get everybody, you know, if, you know, you got to look at the world around you and, oh boy, was I wrong. Boy, was I wrong on that. And so, Mikey, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of what everybody else has said, which, you know, I did get a vibe, in addition to the social media commentary on the whole thing, I did, you know, sort of get this sort of, you know, it's another future or quote unquote advanced society that is ignorant of the dangers that are there, kind of like Macroterra that we reviewed like last year, I think, right? When they reissued it in the animation. Was it last year, year before? I don't know, sometime, right?
Yeah. It was last year, I think.
Sometime in the last like decade. But so I got that vibe from it. I was like, oh, this is his, you know, but then, you know, certainly, you know, when Lindy takes that turn, and then it really gets sort of intense. And, you know, we've kind of made a talking about all the other episodes, and outside of, I think, the last episode, because he was only in it for like 5 minutes, the 15th Doctor, we've seen him cry, I think, every episode, every time he's been on screen. But this one, I think I was crying with him for the first time. And I didn't rewatch the whole thing, but I did see that sequence again, because I just thought it was so powerful that I wanted to review it again. And yeah, it hits you just as hard. I mean, harder even, I think, the second time. And kudos to RTD for incorporating that. I don't think this was probably in the original pitch for the story, but kudos to him for implementing that, because it certainly was really effective. And I think it's one of the things that, you know, one of the reasons that we watch Doctor Who.
Oh, agree completely. Never ever did I ever want to see somebody eaten by a monster so much than in this episode. So, you know, yeah. I so wanted her when she opened that door. I wish there was a monster, and then I realized we were watching the monster the whole frippin' time. Yeah. And that's the thing with it.
Although I don't think it's, you know, it's funny because I agree that Lindy Pepperbean is probably, in the 60 plus years that Doctor Who's been on as a franchise, she's probably now one of the worst monsters in Doctor Who history. However, I don't think we should single her out, because it's not like everybody else around her wasn't thinking the same thing.
Exactly.
They're all monsters.
They were a product of their environment, and not in a good way. And it seemed like that's the thing that really threw you, or threw me anyway, is that it seemed like Lindy was making progress through the, she was learning to walk, so to speak, for the first, like she was learning to see for the first time. And so you really thought like this is going to open that door.
She was taking baby steps for the first time.
Exactly. And literally and figuratively. And yet the door just, when she slams the door on,
Ricky.
Yeah, on Ricky. I keep wanting to say Ricky Steamboat. But when she slams the door on Ricky, she really slams the door in all our faces as far as like, she's not learning. There's little hope for these people, as they're tugging away on their Jungle Cruise boat. Like, it's like, just let them go to.
Exactly. And it was fun. It was like, but the thing is, she literally, she betrayed Ricky. Yep. She, yelled out that, what his real last name was. Yeah. And
without a second thought.
Yeah, without a second thought.
No remorse at
all.
No
remorse whatsoever. No. She didn't close it. Like, I thought when she closed the door, I thought she was going to be like, sorry, but she didn't. Nope. Her eyes, her face did not say sorry at all. It was just like, got to do what I got. Girls got to do what a girl's got to do. Bye.
Exactly. Well, he was dead already by the time she went through that door. The thing went through his head.
Yep.
And, and it's funny because the doctors, was like trying to figure out where the slugs had come from. And, and then when he put it together, it's like, oh, the dots created them. Mm-hmm. And so, but it wasn't only in this colony, it was also on the home world. And it was just interesting. Whatever other colonies they had, I'm sure it was the same exact thing. And it was just real interesting because.
So are the dots the good guys?
Yeah, well, exactly. And Judy looked at me.
I was rooting for the slugs by the end.
It was like, why did they create the slugs? The dots could have just, killed everybody just like they killed Ricky, and everything. And
that would have been too quick.
Yeah. Ricky was the true hero in this story.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think he would have, I think he would have turned on the doctor too at the end, though.
Oh, I think so too.
I think he was the one who at least had the most chance of redemption.
He was on the redemption. I actually saw the Ricky as rewatching it as a doctor substitute, but he was the white doctor. He was doing the stuff that the doctor would have done. Mm-hmm. He was actually rescuing her. He was holding her. He was getting them to safety. He was the one who'd educated himself. He was beginning to understand the world around him.
He even grabbed her hand like the Ninth Doctor did, with Rose. I'm the doctor. Run and grabbed her.
Yeah. So second time around, I read him that way.
Good
call. I think he was the one on.
I missed that.
But again, it was that thing that she would go with him because he was the white doctor substitute.
Exactly. So it was interesting too because I also got a Star Wars feel from him also when he had the pipe and he was beating at the dot and everything. I felt it was like from the original Star Wars movie, and everything. So it was interesting.
To the first viewing when I saw the doctor crying and then realized that he cried through several different episodes, I was thinking that Disney in their magic was warming us up for something because Disney uses tears a lot in their films to bring the dead back to life. So that's
interesting. And they're Gallifreyan tears, so they're magic, of course.
And I also thought about Heather Waterpilot, and isn't she still with the doctor when Bill cried? A drop of tear got on the doctor's head and melted in. So there was a drop of Heather Waterpilot with the doctor.
Possibly.
Oh boy, that's going back. I didn't think.
Wow.
Yeah, deep cut.
See, Romona, I just thought this is why we have you on the show. This is awesome.
I really just thought like this is. I mean, Russell T and Judy are making sure that this doctor is different than any other doctor we've seen before. He cries, he sings, he opens himself up and tells stories about his past that he it's just so different. because he doesn't have a lot of that baggage, because the 14th is supposed to be taking a lot of that away from him, right? I guess that incarnation is still valid.
Yeah.
I did think that it was interesting. I did watch the official Doctor Who podcast again, because somebody has to. No, just kidding.
You're the one. Got it.
You're the sacrifice.
But somebody, they had some pretty interesting comments on this one, and their guest, who I wish I could remember his name. Sorry, but I didn't write it down. But the guest pointed out that, that scene at the end with the Doctor crying and getting upset and everything. It's that. They said something to the effect of, and I don't have the exact quote here, sorry, but the Doctor's had over 1,000 years of white privilege, and he's seen racism out there several times, but he's never experienced it for himself.
Exactly.
And this is the first time he's experiencing it for himself, and how powerful of a scene is that?
Yeah, and I'm glad they waited to do this episode with Shooty, because it would not have hit the same with any other Doctor.
No.
Probably.
No.
If anything, they would have been against Ginger or something with Matt and Karen.
They came close, not racism, but sexism. That women have voice, men don't. In Kinda.
Yeah.
True.
But even if this had been Jodie, it wouldn't have landed.
Exactly.
Because Lindy seemed fine with Ruby.
Yeah, and she listened to Ruby, but she listened to Ruby.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, because Ruby looked like her.
Yeah.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
If Ruby had looked different, I'm not sure it would have been the same.
Well, that was one of the first clues, because she blocked the Doctor right away.
Immediately.
Yeah. Immediately.
Without a sec, Yeah. Oh, I don't want, you're not supposed to be here. Click,
Yeah.
And everything.
Plus, I think it put me in mind of the Pompeii episode.
Yeah.
When the Doctor had to be talked into saving people. I mean, this was the exact opposite end of the spectrum.
Yes, good point. Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah, good call there.
It's interesting. A friend of mine, I was talking to about it on Saturday. They said that Lindy, at the beginning of the episode, before it went dark with her, reminded him a lot of how Donna was when she first appeared. Very, vapid, very, shallow. And, as, her meeting the Doctor gave her, precedence and everything. And where the opposite for Lindy, she didn't get better. She got so much worse.
Her perspective just kept getting more narrow and more narrow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially the part when she said that he was obligated to, you were obligated to help me out of this situation.
Yeah.
That's what really struck me.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, she, when the first time she saw the monster, the slugs, she was like, "Oh, you put them there."
Yeah.
It was like, what? Type thing. And it was pretty crazy. What did you guys, think of the man trap? The design was brilliant. I thought it was really very good looking for a monster.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like the fact it was actually a practical monster too. It was guys in a suit. What was it? Three guys in each suit?
Three guys in the suit. Yeah.
Three guys in each suit.
Actually, didn't they say four? But
the fourth person was the one that got eaten. So
yeah.
I thought
it looked like a tractator, and then my second thought was that it may have been a prequel to the tractators, and that humans somehow created tractators and they evolved, and there was Frontios way down the end of the timeline there.
I love the idea of because everything in their world was so quick. Going back to why didn't the Dot just kill everybody, like he did with Ricky? I think the fact that it's evolved or created something that actually slowly digested people as a sort of antidote to the quick instant gratification world that they lived in, that probably their greatest fear would be something to happen to them slowly, that they would become aware of and stuff like that. So I thought psychologically it was an interesting take as well as just the the actual, monster horror side of it. I thought there was an interesting psychological horror to what was
also
happening.
the overlay of the blue arrow pointing directly into the man-trap's mouth. That
Yeah.
Exactly. And it was interesting, I'm sure thousands of them just walked right into one and everything.
Yeah, well, most of them, I think that's what they did.
I will say one slight down I did have was them figuring out why only certain people were getting eaten at a certain point, and they were going through all these things like, is it the diet? Is it this? I think that went on a little too long before they figured it out.
Yeah.
They went through too many permutations of, trying to figure it out. That I wasn't clever enough for the doctor. It took him too long, I thought, to actually click what was actually happening. And again, the coincidence that there was only one person left before Lindsay when they figured it out. I was like, no, I think they could have figured it out earlier, but
2 people before. Yeah.
2 people, 10 people, whatever. But I don't know. It just seemed, that little bit just seemed a bit contrived to me, but conceptually, I thought they were great.
One of my favorite shots is when she's outside and she looks and sees one of them like attacking one of her friends in the window.
Yeah.
I just thought that was very, very striking and
the person was banging on the window and then all of a sudden it just came up.
Yeah. It's just but I do think it's a marketing fail on Russ's part not to have named them. To leave that up to the fans, and that that's sometimes that just doesn't work very well. So I wish he'd come up with a name for them so that we could call them something. I don't know. I don't like the name Man Trap, and I don't know. It just seems.
Well, it was one of the things I loved about this episode was the scenery, was the sets were gorgeous.
Oh yeah.
In these,
Yeah.
the colors they used, all the windows were round, the light fixtures were round. The sphere was round.
The building, the house that she lived in, is actually based on a building called the Washing Machine Building in China, and you can Google that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the Washing Machine Building in China.
Folks, go ahead and do it. We'll wait here.
On the making of, they said that a lot of the exterior shots were shot at a brand new university campus, so that's why it looks like as brand new as it does. And unfortunately, because they shot it in, I think it was January or something like that, the weather was crap. So that's why you have that person announcing, it's like, we don't know what's going on with the with the weather controls, but we'll get it fixed. But it just sort of added to the chaos. It worked in the story because it adds to the chaos of things. Like, this is happening, and the weather's on the fritz, and oh, by the way, your homeworld is dead too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, that was good foreshadowing for that because he says the satellite is down, so that's pretty good foreshadowing for something's happened to the home world. It was very Truman Show for me, the sets, and I mean in a good way.
It was also the Simpsons movie. Fine Time was in the same bubble that the Springfield was in, and everything. So I thought that was pretty funny. Of course, we got our Susan Fix moment in this one.
Yes, Mummy.
Mom.
Penny Pepper Bean.
Yeah, Mommy Pepper Bean.
I don't know. And the doctor and Ruby recognized her, which is real interesting.
And it's like saved her.
Yep. And so this also goes back to what we were talking about last week, and then Mike saying that Ruby might be remembering some of that alternate history.
Yeah, it seemed pretty clear to me that when the doctor remembered her from Boom, and then Ruby remembered her, but she wasn't sure where. And I'm like, well, that's because of 73 yards. So that would that tells me that they are kind of telling this linearly. That adds evidence that they're telling the story linearly. But I did, when I was watching the official podcast, they were shooting all these different kinds of theories about why Ruby didn't recognize her, and I was just like, it's just a reference to the last episode. Like it seemed pretty clear to me, but I mean, I guess that's the thing about what Russell T has set up here, is that everybody is questioning everything and adding all these, like, sometimes out. It is kind of interesting to hear some of these theories, because as out there as they are, sometimes the actual, whatever's going to, be the actual outcome of this stuff is probably going to be really outlandish too. And I have no idea how they're going to connect all of the Susan Twist appearances. I mean, it's just nothing that I can think of myself makes sense in a satisfying way. Let's put it that way.
No, very much so. It's going to be interesting because, in next week's episode, they're going to be, back in, the 1800s.
It's the Bridgerton episode.
Yes, Bridgerton.
Exactly.
I think they're even using, I think Russell said they're even literally using the same costumes.
They're deliberately making it look like Bridgerton. He said that.
I'm sort of curious. I know, just to really piggyback on Susan Twist, since we have 3 new people, do you guys have any ideas what's going on with Susan Twist? Do you have any theories yourselves, or is it something you care about?
Any Mavity theories? No.
Yeah. I think my original thought was the one that was going around, that it was some reference. You mentioned Susan earlier. There's some reference to Susan, his granddaughter, because he has name checked her several times. But I thought that then when she appeared as the UI on ambulances, I thought that sort of that sort of blew that out of the water, because that was such a slightly malevolent appearance. If she'd just been in the background saying the odd word and was gradually worming her way back into his life over a period of time, that sort of made sense. But then that sort of malevolent appearance, I think, knocked that out of the park for me. So I'm back to square one, and I have no idea.
I'd be twisting my knickers to say if it was Ranny.
Well, somebody had to say it, Mike.
I know. I'm glad it wasn't me this time. I'm really glad it was not me.
I'm surprised. I don't think anybody said it yet this season that's been on our show, including us as hosts, but somebody had to. Somebody had to say it.
Of course. Janne, what about you?
Well, I was wondering if it could be, and this is really outrageous, and I was like, maybe the love child of Rose and the doctor that was left with her.
10.2.
Yeah. Dr. Hand, as we like to call him on the show.
That's interesting.
That is interesting.
That is interesting. That's a theory I didn't even think about.
Yeah. The fact that she's been like different people, though, like that's what is really throwing me, is that she's not the same. She's not the same person, and she's like, in here she's like Lindy's mom, so she has a life. And is it something that, I don't know? At first I thought, well, especially from last week, I'm like, well, maybe she's just interacting with Ruby. But the first time we ever see her, neither Ruby or the 15th Doctor are even in that episode. like when she's with Newton. So it's like, I don't know. I think it is tied in. I think she is tied into the Mavity thing.
Yeah, I just kind of thought that maybe she was the woman that left her at the church.
Could be.
Yes.
I was going to say another theory that I've seen going, which I quite like, is the fact that because a lot of this is since we've gone into the area of mythology and story, and maybe there's this idea that the Doctor realizes he's starting to be within a story, is whether she's some sort of cosmic storyteller or narrator or something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
Right.
Well, on the flip side, it could be just a glitch in the Matrix, with all the Time Lords being genocidically dead, and the Doctor's just the last one by himself.
Could be the Matrix.
A glitch in the Matrix itself.
Yeah, because I had even thought, how Clara was splintered through time and everything. She could have been splintered too and lived all these lifetimes.
I'm kind of getting to a Madame Kevorkian vibe from her too.
And then there's 2 more. One is
that,
Rassilon. We've never really seen the end of Rassilon. We just seen him get booted off of Gallifrey. in his council shuttle, but we never seen his end. And the other one is the Master. Somehow he just keeps on coming back.
The Master's in that tooth still, so.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then I thought that it was either the Ronnie or Missy that came back that picked up the tooth.
Yeah. Well,
Right,
I don't
because
think it's
Master
Missy.
can show up anywhen across the timeline.
That's true.
I'm starting to wonder, because there's been such a theme of false realities here, and how people create false realities and believe them, even though something is staring them right in the face, and the way our perceptions get warped by our biases, that I wonder if it's the TARDIS. And this is the TARDIS trying to warn them somehow by appearing, constantly appearing.
Well, you said that last week also about, the woman, in the distance, and everything. So, that was the TARDIS, projecting itself.
It's it's interesting. I don't, like I said, I don't have any theory that I've been satisfied with myself. And again, on the, they were really interesting this week because they on the official podcast, they mentioned how, I think it was back sometime a few years ago. And to be honest with you, I don't know if it was Davies or Moffat, but their idea was that they would have a companion that would have been, we would find out through the course of their time with the Doctor that it was somebody that the Doctor once took it upon himself or herself to create the ultimate companion. And so in doing so, we find out that the companion that we're with has been that genetically engineered companion that the Doctor has created. Now, if so then I was thinking, well, wow, what if it was the Doctor or somebody like that was dropping Ruby off at the church, or what if there's a twist on that in terms of not to,
Well, he did repair the holographic system.
Well, there is always a twist at the end.
Yeah. But what if there's some sort of like, what if they're like somebody, whether maybe it was even, the Celestial Toymaker. What if somebody had created Ruby to be a companion for the Doctor, and with something that was going to play out later. Because even though she's human from all the scans and everything that the Doctor has seen, I mean, she does have some sort of power. And
yes, she does.
And we're not sure exactly, there was no snow in this episode. But,
lots of wind and rain.
Call the snow as being analog technology, like on a vid screen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Static.
Right.
Yes. So, any final thoughts before we go ahead and rate this one?
I actually just want to go back to the Ruby Sunday thing. I also wondered about Ricky September's name, the R time frame S.
Yes.
Sunday, Ricky September, if there was a connection there. There didn't seem to be one in the show, but in the episode.
I thought that, it was, such a, but then again, that wasn't even his real name as they revealed.
It was revealed, right, yeah.
You're on the good track there, Alan, because we were also given a set of numbers for that portal code.
Yeah.
To access the river, but we were given that set of numbers. And in the previous episode, we were giving a QR code for the menu at the restaurant.
Yeah.
Right.
So we're getting possibly some Easter eggs that need to be solved.
Yeah. You also got the Easter egg in this one of Jimbo once again, which is Russell T. Davies, one of his favorite names he likes to use.
Mm-hmm.
How that was the name of the robot on the spaceship with David Tennant and Donna.
Yeah.
And he also was the name of the little spider robot back in the Ninth Doctor era. Every time, you needed a name, he always just went, Jimbo, and so he got that.
And
one
number
of her
55.
best friends.
And the number 55 was another Russell T Davies regular trope in here as well. So,
Yeah. And it's interesting. This is another episode where you have to watch where you're walking.
That's true.
Or you'll walk into something that's going to cause problems.
Yeah. Could be a post.
Your
could be a man
problem.
trap.
Exactly. So, I thought this was a brilliant episode. Any other final thoughts? Or let's go ahead and rate this one. 1 out of 5 TARDISes, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best. Mary, I'll let you go first this time.
Ooh, I get to go first. This is one of those episodes. To me, this is a great episode. This is a brilliant episode, but it is a heartbreaking episode. And it is not one that is easy to watch. Actually, it kind of gets worse when you watch it again, in the sense of how emotionally it grabs you. And I think it's fascinating that it's continuing with the theme of indoctrination, and how we are kind of prisoners of our own thoughts and emotions, and how we need to overcome that. And this is for me is shaping up to be just a brilliant season. I am so enjoying it, and it's given me so much to think about. So anyway, I'm going to rate this one, I think a 4.5. I mean, there's some little minor niggles, as almost all episodes have, but overall, I think it is brilliant, and I would highly recommend it.
Okay. Alan.
Yeah, I think I'm going to give this one a 4, partially because I said, first time I watched it, I didn't really get it. I think Russell T Davies was trying to do a lot, and I don't think he succeeded with all of the things that he was trying to do here. Was it about social media? Was it about not looking beyond our horizons? Was it about peer influence? Was it about this? Was it about that? He piled so much in, and then we got the kicker at the end. And I didn't really fully appreciate that until I went back and rewatched it again, and that sort of bubbled to the surface. So I think it's sort of, in trying to do a lot, I think he sort of buried the lead a little bit. And I know it got us at the end. And it's got everybody talking, which is great. And it's got everybody talking about some real tricky issues and thoughts. And to Mary's point earlier, is actually making us think about our own cultural bias as we watch it and rewatch it. But I think it just missed the mark in terms of impact for me on that initial thing, because it was only really at the end it was like, oh, this is what he was talking about, and I had to sort of go back and revisit it. So I think for that reason I'm going to give it a 4. Very strong, very fascinating episode, but I think he just tried to do too much.
4 is still very respectable, my friend.
Yeah.
So cool. Janne.
I think I would have to give the episode 5, just because with the buildup of everything, and like I said, what I have seen kids go through in social media, I can totally see the perspective that RTD was trying to take. Like I said, I've seen that in my former life, I was a magistrate judge, and you wouldn't believe how many teenagers we would have come in, where they're being bullied on social media or stalked or sexploitation, all that type of stuff. So that's what I meant when I said, speaking personally and professionally, I can see the road that he was taking. And emotionally for me, I don't think I felt that emotional about an episode since A Good Man Goes to War, that whole timeline.
Sure.
But the difference between Matt Smith's doctor and Schutte is that he was outraged because of what was happening to people around him. And Schutte was hurt because of something that he had never personally experienced before as the doctor. So I think that emotional roller coaster is what kind of put it over the top, that made it a 5 for me, because I could feel the emotions that he was going through when he realized why he couldn't save them.
No, totally makes sense. You could literally feel the frustration on him.
Exactly.
Especially, and Ruby going, did she just say what I think she said? And you saw the frustration on the doctor. I could save you, I don't care what you think. I still want you guys to live. And showing that how much he is above them.
Oh yeah.
And was trying to save their lives. And it was heartbreaking.
I mean, I can't tell you how many defendants I had to deal with when there was something I could do for them, for their bond, for their, small claims case, that just didn't want to hear what I had to say, either because I was a woman or because I was Black. And sometimes you just have to let it go.
Yep.
And it's difficult.
No, totally understand that. It's crazy. Mr. Gordon.
I'm going to give it a 4.5 as well. First of all, even though it doesn't have to do with the story of the episode itself, I did want to mention, because we haven't mentioned it, I don't think yet, but I think it was really cool that Disney Plus included now has Doctor Who in its Pride collection that they're promoting this month.
Mm-hmm.
That's wonderful.
Beginning with this episode, so good on them.
Yes.
Also, but as far as the story itself, I thought it was really powerful. It moved really fast for me. Like when it was over, I couldn't believe it was over already. I thought when Lindy actually turned on Ricky, I thought that we were at just a little bit past the halfway point. I didn't think we were like almost at the end. So it really kind of threw me with how it ended, because I was like, surely the Doctor's going to overcome this, but nope, it just ends. And it's like, whoa. I mean, it just, but it's also really relevant. I'd love to point out and say like, oh, those kids, I know kids like Lindy and all that kind of stuff. But to be honest with you, as far as being trapped in the bubble, sometimes I can see myself as Lindy, like in that way. And that's not something I'm proud of, but yet it exists. And it's kind of, interesting to see that perspective of it as well, an outside perspective of it. And so I think it was very relevant. The message was very powerful at the end, and it gets even more powerful on a rewatch, which I think is even, more of an indication of how powerful and how great it is. And it's one of, even though it's one of his first performances as the Doctor, knocks it out of the park and creates one of the most iconic Doctor moments, I think will be in his run. So I think for all those reasons and more, it's a 4.5 for me.
Fantastic. Ramona.
I'd like to preface my score with just saying that here in the United States, we are about to celebrate a holiday called Juneteenth, which is an Afro-American celebration for celebrating certain freedoms granted to them on the Juneteenth holiday. And it's actually been made a actual holiday. And on that note, I'm going to give a score of 4.5. It was good, but you really, really have to do your homework and even watch it a second or a third time just to get the wow, this is deep.
Cool. No, 4.5 is definitely good. All right. For me, I'm thinking I am going to give my first 5 of the season. I was,
like there should be streamers.
For the first,
and
well,
confetti
there
falling
should be
from
streamers.
and
I will do that for, when the video version of this. So basically, it's interesting. For me, it's, if we went off just the first time I watched the story, it was maybe a 4, a whole Lindy storyline until she walked down to down into where the boat was and everything. Then the whole story took a really awful turn. And it just, my eyes were like saucers with this. And I was just like, oh my God, they went there. And why didn't I see that? And then on the second watching of it, it's right in your face, literally. And all her friends, everything. They're white as white can be, Wonder Bread was calling and say, hey, we want our white back, type thing. That's how, bad it was. And it was it was just amazing. I didn't see it the first time. And I was just like, oh my God, what a horrible person she was. And I hate to say it, I looked at my Oculus Rift afterwards after watching it the second time and said, you're going up for sale, my friend. I do not want to go into a virtual world ever again. It's just crazy. I could see the whole thing, like Janne was saying, of, kids and their cliques and their social circles and everything. I saw that with William, all his friends, he had tons of friends, but they were all online. Why don't you get together with them? Oh, Dad, that's so uncool. That type of thing. They sat around and chatted and talked and video conferenced and everything, till 3:00 in the morning and then got up for school. It's more prevalent than you could ever, think about, folks. So it's just amazing. And then how multifaceted this story was, and like Mary said, this is turning out to be an amazing season. And we're already over halfway done with it, which is the biggest crime. I want so much more. I really, really do. And, we definitely would love to hear from you guys at home. What did you guys think? Did you enjoy it? Did you not? Were you able to, figure it out right away, And, this was darker in some ways than some of the, Black Mirror stuff that was out there. And, for Doctor Who, bravo. Come on. Definitely would love to hear from everybody. Feedback at EarthStationWho is the best way. Or, write us up on social media and everything. I posted a meme up in our Facebook group. It was hilarious what the old lady was saying to everyone to scare them away from Ruby last week was, the old lady telling everyone that Ruby likes pineapple on her pizza. So, which was pretty awesome. We got a couple groans on that one, so it was pretty awesome. If you made it this far into the video, thank you. We do appreciate it. If you're still listening to our podcast and haven't shut it off and cursed our names, please subscribe, like, thumbs up, 5 stars. Always would love to do it. Let's thank our crew for being here. Alan, thank you, my friend. Anything you want to promote?
Thank you. If folks are interested in stuff I'm working on, you can always subscribe to my email newsletter at alanjporter.substack.com or follow me via my website at alanjporter.com.
Romona, anything?
No, just find me on Facebook by my name, Romona Schnitger. My profile picture is the TARDIS with a orange sun behind it.
Mm-hmm. And you've got a couple different great Facebook groups if you want to promote those real quick.
The quickest one offhand is Whovian Pride, LGBTQ, and other. A very, very tame group. It's public, and it's celebrating the dynamics of Doctor Who.
Happy Pride Month, by the way.
Happy Pride Month.
Very much to all of us. And Janne, you made it to your first episode with us. Congratulations.
Yay. Thank you.
More streamers.
Yay.
More streamers. Yay. So are you going to be at Dragon Con this year?
I am going to be at Dragon Con this year. A friend of mine and I actually last year we started a small LLC called Contratter, and we are hopefully going to be working with some groups trying to make conventions such as Dragon Con more accessible for people with sensory issues, as well as hopefully working with disability services more is what our goal is.
That's awesome.
That is awesome.
That is awesome.
Very
and
cool.
The disability services is a great service for folks at Dragon Con. My wife uses it when we go, and they have been very, very helpful.
Yeah, this is the first year they're going to have a quiet room and some other sensory things at Dragon Con. So we're hoping that we can help them out some, at least see what items they may need, be it, fidget bits or coloring books or crayons, just something that helps calm people's nerves when they're in a intense situation.
And, I was someone who went to Dragon Con for 18 years, so it can get very intense, folks. Very, very intense with 80,000 of your closest friends. So it's a good thing. And also, let's, of course, thank our regulars for being here. Ms. Mary Ogle, thank you as always.
Oh, thank you. I'm so glad that we're having such a great season to talk about.
You want to promote your stuff?
You can find me at maryogle.com or on Etsy at eVision Arts.
Excellent. And Mr. Mike, we've made it through another one, my friend.
We did, and as always, it's my pleasure.
So you guys do you have another Dragon Con we're coming up soon?
We do.
2 weeks.
Well, we just released an episode, and in a couple of weeks, we're going to be recording our next episode of the Dragon Con and a report. And I think I can throw out this teaser there that, yes, it's all about the, life inside the Dragon Con squared circle, brother.
All right, brother, here we go.
DCW. So, yeah.
That's right, bro.
It's going to be fun. So take your vitamins, say your prayers.
Of course. And of course, Bat Chums.
Bat Chums, yes, where Drew Leiter and I review every episode of the Batman 60 series. We are doing that episode by episode. We just released episode 5 last week, and as people are listening to this, 6 is about to hit the airwaves. You can watch it on YouTube. You can listen to us at all the places that you'll find quality podcasts, and we're included too.
Oh, exactly. That's what we always like to say here. You can always listen to the other podcasts, but, Earth Station Who, we've been doing this for 12 years now. So, you know what? We've been having a blast doing it, and we're always having new Whovian adventures. So it's a good thing. On behalf of myself, Mike Faber, of course, thank you as always. We thank you guys at home. We will see you all soon. And, before we forget, like and subscribe, and we will see you next time. Peace, and we are done.
You've been listening to Earth Station Who, a pop culture podcast dedicated to all things Doctor Who, featuring talents from throughout space and time. All topics on the show are the sole opinions of the individuals and are to be used for entertainment value alone. You can subscribe to our show wherever fine podcasts are found, or check out our website, EarthStationWho.com. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook or Instagram, and if you enjoyed the show, please write to us at feedback@earthstationwho.com. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you on the next journey of Earth Station Who.
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network. Be part of the crew and help support our shows by donating to our ESO Patreon or by shopping at the TeePublic store, which can all be found at www.esonetwork.com. The ESO Network, your station for all things geek.